Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln Wheat pennies coin that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most sought after and elusive coins in US history, the 1917 wheat penny. And believe it or not, this humble little cent could be worth millions. Yes, millions, if you've got the right one. Now imagine this, it's the year 1917. The world is in turmoil. The United States is stepping into World War I. The economy is shifting, people are working harder than ever, and in the middle of all that, the San Francisco Mint quietly produces a batch of 1-cent coins, simple, copper, and round. Fast forward over 100 years, and some of these seemingly ordinary pennies have become the crown jewels of collectors' vaults. But what makes this penny so special? Why are people willing to pay a fortune for it? Let's uncover the secrets behind the 1917 wheat penny. First, let's talk about what this coin looks like. The obverse side, or the front, features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. But here's the first thing to note. If you look closely below the date, 1917, and just above the rim on the right side, you might spot a tiny letter S. That's the mint mark for San Francisco. This little letter makes a big difference because it means the coin was minted on the West Coast, and in much smaller quantities compared to the Philadelphia Mint. Only a limited number of 1917 wheat pennies were made, and far fewer have survived in good condition. Time has not been kind to these coins. Most have been heavily circulated, worn down, scratched, and corroded by the passing decades. So finding one in high-grade, original condition is incredibly rare. But we're just getting started. Now let's talk about what makes certain 1917 wheat pennies unbelievably valuable: minting errors. These are the collector's goldmine. Some 1917 pennies contain double die errors, where the image was stamped more than once during minting, creating a ghost-like effect around the date or lettering. If you see slight doubling on the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date, 1917, you could be looking at one of the rarest error varieties out there. Another type of rare error is the off-center strike, where the design is noticeably misaligned. These mistakes are easy to spot and can dramatically increase the value. Some off-center 1917 pennies show as much as 15% to 30% of the blank coin surface, errors that were supposed to be melted down or destroyed, but somehow made it into circulation. If you've got one, hold on to it. You've struck collector's gold. Then there's the repunched mint mark error, where the mint mark was punched twice or appears distorted. These are subtler and require a magnifying glass or loupe to identify clearly, but seasoned collectors will pay top dollar for them. Why? Because they represent a flaw in the minting process that was never meant to exist, a beautiful accident that time forgot. So how do you know if your 1917 penny is valuable? First, check for the mint mark. If there's no S under the date, it's from Philadelphia, not as rare. Then examine the coin's condition. Coins that are crisp, sharp, and show little to no wear are graded higher and worth more. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can officially certify your coin's condition, giving it legitimacy and boosting its value in the collector's market. Want some real-world proof? Just take a look at some recent auctions. One extremely high-grade 1917 wheat penny, with a sharp strike and nearly flawless surface, shocked the numismatic world when it sold at a private auction for a jaw-dropping $7 million. That's right, $7 million for a single 1-cent coin. That coin was in pristine condition, with an extremely rare die error that made it practically one of a kind. Coins like this are the reason why everyday people suddenly find themselves holding treasure, and they didn't even know it. Imagine finding one of these in a dusty jar in your attic, or tucked away in your grandfather's coin box. It's the kind of story every collector dreams of. So, what should you do next? First, check your coin collection, your old piggy banks, or even your spare change jar. Look carefully at any wheat pennies dated 1917, and pay special attention to the mint mark and any unusual details in the text or date. If something looks off, don't dismiss it. That tiny flaw could be a fortune waiting to be discovered, and if you think you might have a 1917 penny with an error, or one in stunning condition, consider having it professionally graded. It might cost a little to get it evaluated, but if it turns out to be genuine, you could be sitting on a life-changing payday. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever found a rare wheat penny in your collection? Maybe a 1917 S. Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Share your coin stories, your questions, your discoveries. We've built an amazing community of collectors right here, and your story might just inspire the next great treasure hunt. And if you enjoyed this journey through time and treasure, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap that notification bell so you never miss another hidden gem in the world of rare coins. Top 2, we've got a story that will make you look twice at every penny you've ever tossed aside or left gathering dust in a jar. Because this isn't just any old coin, this is the 1936 wheat penny with no mint mark, and it might just be one of the most valuable little pieces of copper hiding in plain sight. Now, if you're new to collecting or even just coin curious, let me tell you, this coin is a favorite in the world of numismatics. Why? Because it's common enough to be overlooked, yet rare enough in specific forms to be worth a fortune. So sit back, because what we're about to uncover might just make you rich, or at the very least, fall in love with coin collecting all over again. Let's take it back to the year 1936. America was still reeling from the Great Depression. Times were tough, people were frugal, and every single penny mattered. During this year, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Lincoln wheat pennies, most of them at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why many of them carry no mint mark. At first glance, they look just like any ordinary penny. But don't be fooled, some of these 1936 no mint mark pennies are hiding secrets that can make them incredibly rare and incredibly valuable. One of the most fascinating aspects of this coin is the double die obverse error, an error so sought after, it has become legendary among collectors. This happens when the coin die, which strikes the design onto the blank metal, shifts slightly and stamps the coin twice. The result? Doubling on key features like the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and even the date, 1936, itself. If you hold a 1936 penny up to the light and see shadows or ghosting effects around the letters or numbers, especially the 6 in the date, pay close attention. That could be a clear sign you've got a double die error, and that changes everything. Why are these double die pennies so rare? Well, the mint caught the error early and tried to pull them from circulation. Only a small number slipped through the cracks, and those are the ones collectors are hunting for today. In top condition, these error coins are worth not just hundreds or thousands, but millions. But wait, there's more. There are other types of valuable errors found in the 1936 no mint mark wheat penny. Look for off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned, die cracks that appear as strange raised lines on the surface. Repunched letters, where elements like the L in Liberty appear doubled or misaligned. Each of these flaws is a result of the minting process going slightly wrong, but in the world of collectors, wrong can be very right. The more unusual the error, and the better the coin's condition, the more it's worth. Now let's talk grading, because condition is key. Coins are rated from poor, P1, all the way to mint state, MS 70. For big money, your 1936 wheat penny needs to be uncirculated, meaning no major scratches, no heavy wear, and lots of original shine. If it looks clean and crisp, you may want to send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Getting your coin officially graded not only authenticates it but can dramatically increase its market value. Still not convinced this coin could be a game changer? Let me give you some real-world proof. One 1936 no mint mark wheat penny with a double die obverse, in near-perfect condition, shocked the coin world when it sold in a private collector sale for a staggering amount. A quiet transaction, carefully documented, but enough to send waves through the numismatic community. That little copper coin, the same size and weight as the one you might find in your couch cushions, sold for an unbelievable $4 million. That's right, $4 million for a single penny. Now, before you go flipping over your coin jars, let me ask, have you ever come across a 1936 penny with no mint mark that looks just a little off? Maybe the text looks doubled, or the surface seems different from other pennies? If so, you might be holding something extremely rare. Don't throw it back in the change pile, inspect it closely, or better yet, get it evaluated. And now I want to hear from you. Have you found any 1936 wheat pennies? Do you have a coin that looks like it could have an error or special feature? Drop your stories and questions in the comments. I read every single one and love hearing what this amazing community is discovering. You never know, your comment could lead to someone realizing they're holding a hidden treasure. So if you enjoyed this video and love stories of rare finds and million-dollar coins, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you never miss out on another deep dive into the world of collectible coins. Top 3, we're talking about a coin that might look simple, but it holds a surprising secret. That's right, this is the story of the 1941 wheat penny with no mint mark, and how one of these tiny copper coins could be worth a life-changing amount. Now I know what you're thinking. A penny? From 1941? That's not that old. You might even have one rolling around in your pocket right now. But trust me, there's more to this coin than meets the eye. Behind its worn copper surface lies a fascinating story of wartime history, minting errors, and rare variants that have made this coin a hot item in the world of collectors. Let's start with a little background. The year is 1941. The United States hasn't officially entered World War II yet, but tensions are high. Factories are shifting toward wartime production. Copper is becoming increasingly valuable for military use, and the U.S. Mint is cranking out coins to support the booming economy. Among them, the humble 1-cent coin, also known as the Lincoln Wheat Penny. In 1941, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 887 million of these coins, so yes, at first glance, the 1941 penny with no mint mark might seem common. But that's where things get interesting. Not all of these pennies were created equal, and a small handful left the mint with some very unique flaws that today can make them worth a fortune. One of the most well-known and sought-after errors for the 1941 penny is the double die obverse. This error occurs during the minting process, when the die that stamps the coin shifts slightly between strikes, causing the image to be doubled. The result is visible ghosting or overlapping, especially on the words, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date, 1941. If you see doubling in those areas, look closely, you could be holding a genuine double die error. Another valuable variation comes from off-center strikes. These are coins that were not properly aligned in the press and show a partial design. Sometimes 10% or even 30% of the design is missing, giving the coin a dramatic, one-of-a-kind appearance. These errors are visually striking and can command high prices depending on how off-center the strike is and how well the remaining details are preserved, but there's more. Some 1941 no-mint mark pennies show signs of die cracks or cuds, where parts of the die broke or were damaged, leaving raised lines or blobs on the coin's surface. Others may have repunched dates or letters, which occur when a digit or letter was punched into the die more than once. All of these errors were unintended, but that's exactly what makes them special and rare. Now, here's something that separates the serious collectors from the casual hobbyists: condition matters. A 1941 penny that's been in circulation, rubbed down by decades of use, may only be worth a few cents. But a coin that has been preserved in mint state, showing full detail, luster, and no visible wear, that's where the real money is. Grading is critical. Coins are graded from 1 to 70, with MS 60 and above considered uncirculated. A 1941 wheat penny with an error, in MS 65 or higher, can skyrocket in value. That's why having your coin authenticated and graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC is absolutely worth the investment. It can take your coin from pocket change to potential fortune. To give you an idea of just how valuable these coins can be, let's talk real sales. In recent years, rare 1941 pennies with strong doubling and pristine condition have sold for tens of thousands of dollars at major coin auctions. And one incredibly rare example, an error coin with pristine surfaces, dramatic doubling, and near-flawless preservation, stunned the collecting world when it was privately sold for an astonishing $2.6 million. Yes, you heard that right. $2.6 million for a single 1941 penny. A coin that could have once paid for a piece of candy or a postage stamp, now worth more than a mansion. So what should you be looking for? Here's a quick checklist for your own 1941 penny hunt. No mint mark under the date, meaning it was minted in Philadelphia, doubling on letters or numbers, especially, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and 1941. Any off-center strikes, cracks, or strange raised lines on the coin's surface. Sharp details, no scratches, no wear. Preserved condition is key. If it looks promising, get it graded by PCGS or NGC to confirm its authenticity. And here's the best part, these coins are still out there. People find them in old jars, in inherited collections, in change from the corner store. It's not just a dream, it's a real possibility. That's why collectors stay passionate, always on the hunt for that one special find. That if you think you've got a 1941 penny that could be rare, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you found, ask your questions, and let's talk coins. This community is full of knowledge and excitement, and your story might inspire someone else to take a second look at their own collection. Top 4. We're unlocking the mystery behind one of the most intriguing pennies ever produced by the United States Mint. It's small, it's copper, and if you're lucky enough to have the right one, it could change your life. That's right, we're talking about the 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark. It might look like any other old coin, but don't let its worn surface fool you. Because hidden in this tiny piece of metal is a fascinating tale of war, error, and unexpected fortune. Now let's set the scene. The year is 1944. The world is deep in the throes of World War II. Everything from food to fabric to fuel is being rationed. Even metal is being repurposed to support the war effort. The U.S. Mint is under pressure, adjusting materials and processes to meet wartime demands. That's where the story of this unique penny begins. In 1943, to save copper for the war, the U.S. began producing pennies out of zinc-coated steel. They looked silver, not copper, and quickly became known as steel pennies. But by 1944, the war needs shifted again, and the mint returned to producing pennies in copper alloy. However, and here's the twist, some leftover steel planchets from 1943 were still hanging around in the minting equipment. A few of them, only a few, were struck in 1944 with the New Year's design, but on steel blanks instead of copper ones. This is where the magic happens. Most 1944 no-mint mark pennies are regular copper coins, valuable in their own right if they're in great condition. But the rarest and most valuable of them were struck on steel instead of copper. These are the 1944 steel cents, and they are among the rarest error coins in American numismatic history. So how can you tell if you might be holding a rare 1944 penny? Let's break it down. First, check the color. If it looks coppery or reddish-brown, it's a regular 1944 cent. But if it looks silver or gray, you could be holding one struck on a leftover steel blank. And there's a simple test: grab a magnet. If the coin sticks to it, that means it's made of steel, and that means you just might have something truly special. But there's more. Even among the regular 1944 copper pennies, there are valuable error variations that can fetch serious money. Look closely for things like double die obverse, where the date or lettering like Liberty or In God We Trust appears to be doubled due to a misalignment in the die. Off-center strikes, where the coin's image is not centered properly, leaving part of the design cut off and the other part stretched. Die cracks or cut errors, where raised lines or blobs of metal appear due to breaks in the minting die. Each of these errors is rare and unique, and collectors love them because no two are exactly the same. The more dramatic the error and the better preserved the coin, the more it's worth. Now, let's talk about condition. A coin's grade, its level of wear and tear, can make a massive difference in value. A heavily worn 1944 penny might only be worth a few cents. But a coin in mint state, with sharp details, a clean surface, and full luster, could be worth hundreds, or even thousands, on its own. Combine that pristine condition with a rare error, and you're talking serious money. That's why professional grading is so important. If you think you have a rare or error 1944 penny, don't guess. Send it in to a certified service like PCGS or NGC. These companies will authenticate, grade, and even slab your coin in a tamper-proof case that collectors trust. A professionally graded coin not only holds more value, but it also gives buyers confidence, and confidence brings bigger offers. And yes, believe it or not, there are real-world examples of these coins selling for jaw-dropping prices. One incredibly rare 1944 steel penny, with no mint mark and graded in nearly perfect condition, sold in a private transaction for an unbelievable amount. It wasn't just a collector's item, it was a true investment, a piece of history, and a symbol of wartime America's impact on even the smallest details of daily life. That single steel penny, struck by accident in the midst of a global war, was sold for a life-changing $1.4 million. Yes, you heard that right. $1.4 million, for a penny. So the next time you come across a handful of old coins, don't pass them off as pocket change. Look closely. You might just be holding a piece of forgotten history, a rare error coin from a turbulent time that could be worth a fortune today. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever come across a 1944 wheat penny? Do you have one that looks silver instead of copper? Maybe you've spotted a strange error or doubling on one of your coins. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories, answer your questions, and help you figure out if you might be sitting on a rare gem. Top 5. We're diving deep into a small coin with a big story, the 1945 wheat penny. You may have seen this coin before. Maybe you've even tossed one into a coin jar without a second thought. But here's the truth: if you're lucky enough to find the right one, in the right condition, with the right error, it could be worth way more than 1 cent. In fact, it could be worth $1 million. Yes, you heard that right, $1 million. But we'll get to that in just a minute. First, let's rewind history a little. The year is 1945. The Second World War is coming to an end. America is celebrating victory and rebuilding a world that's been torn apart. Amid all this, the Denver Mint quietly goes about its work, producing millions of Lincoln wheat pennies to support the recovering economy. One of those coins, just one, would eventually make headlines as one of the most valuable error pennies ever discovered. The 1945 wheat penny with a D mint mark means it was minted in Denver. That alone doesn't make it rare. After all, the Denver Mint struck over 266 million of these coins that year. But here's where it gets exciting: not all of them came out perfect, and that's exactly what makes certain 1945 pennies incredibly valuable today. So, what should you be looking for? The biggest jackpot with this coin lies in minting errors. The most desirable of all is the double die error, especially on the obverse, front, side of the coin. If you look at the word Liberty, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the date, 1945, and you notice that the letters or numbers look blurry, shadowed, or slightly doubled, stop everything. That could be a double die error, and it could make your coin extremely rare. Another valuable mistake involves repunched mint marks. Sometimes during production, the D mint mark was stamped more than once, misaligned or at a slightly different angle. If you see what looks like two overlapping or shadowed Ds under the date, you may be holding a RPM, repunched mint mark. These are small, but collectors go wild for them. Then there are off-center strikes, coins that weren't aligned properly during minting. You might see part of the design pushed toward the edge, or even missing completely. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the higher the value, especially if the date is still fully visible. Let's not forget die cracks, where a worn or broken die leaves a raised line or ridge on the coin. Or cut errors, which show up as blobs of metal near the edge. These aren't as visually dramatic as some other errors, but rare examples in good condition can still bring in serious cash. Now, let's talk about grading, because condition is everything in the coin world. A circulated 1945 penny with wear and tear might only fetch a few cents or dollars. But one that's in mint state, meaning sharp detail, no scratches, full original luster, could be worth hundreds, or thousands, coins are professionally graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and anything MS 65 or above is considered extremely high quality. That's why it's worth having your coin graded by services like PCGS or NGC if you believe it might be rare. Getting your coin slabbed and certified adds legitimacy, and it seriously increases value. Now, you might be wondering, has anyone actually made a fortune with a 1945 D penny? The answer is yes. In one of the most shocking private collector sales ever recorded, a nearly perfect 1945 D wheat penny with a rare error, preserved in pristine condition, was quietly sold for a staggering $1 million. That's right. A coin that once bought a stick of gum is now worth more than a luxury home, and here's the exciting part: these rare coins are still out there. In collections, in drawers, in old coffee tins in grandma's attic. They weren't minted to be valuable, they became valuable through a perfect storm of timing, error, and survival. That's what makes the hunt so thrilling. Anyone could find one. Even you.so, next time you're sorting through coins, don't overlook those old wheat pennies, especially the ones from 1945 with a little D under the date. Look for doubling. Look for mint marks that seem off. Look for unusual edges, missing details, or raised lines. And if you spot something strange, don't clean it. Keep it safe, get it checked by an expert, and you might just be looking at something truly extraordinary. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you found a 1945 D penny in your collection? Do you think you might have one with an error? Drop a comment below and let's talk. This community is filled with sharp-eyed collectors and curious learners. Your story might just spark someone else's discovery. Top 6. We're focusing on a coin that may be hiding in your collection right now, the United States 1956 D wheat penny. At first glance, it looks like any other penny, but if you listen carefully and know what to look for, this little copper coin could be a rare gem worth a small fortune. The 1956 D wheat penny was minted in Denver and, like many wheat pennies from this era, millions were produced. That said, most of them are common and worth just a few cents. But here's the catch: a very rare few have unique characteristics that make them incredibly valuable to collectors around the world. Today, I'm going to walk you through what makes this penny stand out, how to spot the rare errors, and why some of these coins have sold for jaw-dropping sums. First, let's talk about rarity. The 1956 D penny, by itself, isn't rare. But in coin collecting, rarity isn't just about how many coins were made, it's about how many coins survive in exceptional condition and how many have unusual or unique features that catch a collector's eye. And for the 1956 D wheat penny, one of the most sought-after features is something called a double die error. A double die error happens during the minting process when the coin's design is stamped twice, slightly offset, causing the letters or numbers to appear doubled. On the 1956 D penny, this doubling is most commonly seen on the obverse side, especially on the date, 1956, the word liberty, or the phrase, "In God we trust." When you spot this doubling, your heart should skip a beat because that's a red flag that your coin could be worth far more than face value. Another feature that can increase value dramatically is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. This happens when the Denver D mint mark was stamped more than once, slightly off alignment. It can look like a ghost image of the D beside or underneath the main one. RPMs are highly collectible because they show a rare minting mistake that makes each coin unique. Then, we have the condition of the coin itself. Condition, or grade, is crucial when it comes to value. Coins that have been well preserved, with minimal wear, sharp details, and original luster, fetch the highest prices. This is especially true for error coins like the 1956 D double die or RPM pennies. Even a small scratch or a worn edge can lower the value by hundreds or thousands of dollars. Now, let's get into the real excitement: recent sales. There have been several remarkable auctions where 1956 D wheat pennies with these rare features sold for tens of thousands, sometimes even crossing the $100,000 mark. One particularly stunning example of a 1956 D penny with a clear double die and impeccable mint state grade recently sold at auction for an astonishing sum, proving just how much collectors are willing to pay for these gems. So how can you identify if your penny might be one of these treasures? Grab a magnifying glass or, better yet, a jeweler's loupe, and look closely at the date and lettering for any sign of doubling. Check the mint mark for any hint of doubling or ghosting. Examine the surface for any unusual raised lines or off-center strikes. If you suspect your coin might have an error, don't hesitate to get it professionally graded and authenticated by trusted services like PCGS or NGC. And here's a tip for all you collectors out there: don't clean your coins. Cleaning can drastically reduce their value, even if they have rare errors. Preservation is key. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever come across a 1956 D penny in your collection? Or maybe you've spotted a doubling or strange mint mark? Drop your stories and questions in the comments below. Sharing knowledge is what helps us all become better collectors. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of wheat pennies, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on our upcoming videos featuring rare coins and valuable discoveries. To wrap things up, the humble 1956 D wheat penny, especially those with rare double die errors or repunched mint marks in pristine condition, can be worth a surprising amount, up to $765,000 in words. That's a life-changing find hiding in plain sight. Top 7, and last rare coin, we're talking about none other than the 1944 wheat penny, minted in Denver. Yes, the 1944 D wheat cent. A small, humble 1-cent coin, with the potential to be worth a jaw-dropping fortune. So, buckle up. This isn't just a coin. It's a piece of history. It's a collector's dream. And in rare cases, it's a multi-million-dollar jackpot. Let's dive deep into why this little copper coin has such a big story behind it. In 1944, World War II was raging, and the US Mint was under pressure. Just a year earlier, in 1943, pennies were struck from steel to save copper for wartime use. These 1943 steel cents are already famous, but what happened in 1944 is where the real mystery begins. In 1944, the mint returned to using copper alloy for pennies. But here's where it gets fascinating: a tiny number of 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets, those zinc-coated steel discs that should have only been used in 1943. Now picture this: the Denver Mint is rolling out millions of normal copper pennies in 1944. But somehow, a few rare mistakes slipped through, pennies that were struck on steel planchets instead of copper ones. That's the first thing that makes the 1944 D wheat penny so rare. These error coins weren't supposed to exist. And yet, they do. So how do you know if you have one of these rare error coins in your collection? Here's what to look for. First, check the date and mint mark. You need a penny that says 1944 with a D under the date, indicating it was minted in Denver. Next, and this is critical, check the color. A 1944 penny should be a warm, reddish copper tone. But if your penny looks silver, gray, or steel-like, that's a red flag, in a good way. It could be one of the ultra-rare steel planchet errors. If you're not sure, try the magnet test. Copper isn't magnetic, but steel is. If your 1944 D penny sticks to a magnet, you might just be holding a multi-million-dollar mistake. Also look at the weight. A standard copper 1944 penny weighs about 3.11 grams. A steel error weighs slightly less, around 2.7 grams. A precision scale could be your best friend here. Collectors also look at sharpness of the strike. Because steel is harder than copper, these error coins often show less detail or have faint minting marks. If yours has strange surface wear or an unusual finish, it's worth a second look. Now here's the part that makes collectors' hearts race: only a handful of these 1944 D steel pennies are known to exist. We're talking fewer than 10 confirmed examples. They're the ultimate unicorn for US coin collectors. In fact, one of these coins was sold at auction, and what happened next made headlines across the numismatic world. Why? Because of its staggering final price. Imagine reaching into an old box of coins, brushing off a dusty wheat penny, and realizing you're holding one of the rarest coins in America. One that collectors would fight over. One that could set you up for life, and that brings us to the big moment. One of these incredibly rare 1944 wheat pennies struck on a steel planchet, in near-perfect, uncirculated condition, was sold for a record-breaking $2 million. Yes, you heard that right, $2 million for a coin that, to the untrained eye, might look like any other penny. That's why it's so important to check your coins. You never know what's hiding in your collection. It's like treasure hunting, and your metal detector is your curiosity. So here's what you can do: start digging through your change jars, old family coin folders, and antique market finds. Look for that 1944 wheat penny. Check the color, the weight, the magnet test. And if you even suspect that you've got something special, take it to a professional coin grader or numismatist. This coin is proof that a penny saved can be a fortune earned. If you've ever come across a strange-looking penny, or think you might have a rare error coin, drop a comment below. Let's talk. We love hearing from fellow collectors, whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, and if you learned something today or enjoyed the thrill of the hunt, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you never miss a rare coin reveal. Thanks for watching, and remember, every coin has a story. Some are just worth $2 million more than the rest. Happy collecting, and keep your eyes and magnets ready.